Everyone, welcome to another edition of Founder Wisdom Podcast. Today we have Kees Froeling with us. He is co-founder at STUDIO.WHY. We're going to talk about a bunch of interesting entrepreneurial topics today. Kees, can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about STUDIO.WHY?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I'm happy to be here. Yeah, we started STUDIO.WHY at about 8 years ago. On the inside, that the world around us is changing quite rapidly, and it's getting more and more unpredictable. And in order to cope with those unforeseen circumstances, people need to have an entrepreneurial mindset. So especially what we do is that we train people towards this entrepreneurial mindset, so they're able to deliver value for others. And nowadays we do that in 5 various countries around the globe.
So do you teach mostly folks in organizations that are employed about this entrepreneurial mindset? Because to me, this entrepreneurial mindset as an entrepreneur, as a founder, has always been natural, but I'm desperately trying to teach it to my team. So would you teach it to my team, for example? Would that be the case here?
Yeah. Usually, on one hand side, we do it a lot together with different kinds of schools around the globe. So especially students, because we think that entrepreneurial mindset is something that is lacking at quite some schools in the world. And on the other side, we're especially focusing on trainees and young professionals within usually rather large organizations, and help them to develop this mindset.
So what is the entrepreneurial mindset? What is the innovation mindset / innovative mindset? How does one comes to conclusion with this mindset, and how does one download it into his brain in the first place?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it's not something that you can download, but you need quite some hours of experience, and especially having a lot of bleeding noses and scratches, because you learn most from making mistakes. But we think that it's especially very important that you're curious, like you're a 3 years old kid and asking yourself why all the time. And usually what we see is if people go to school, and fortunately a lot of people go to school, then they have to cope with the system. So they learn not to color outside the lines, but they have to comply with the system. And that's killing creativity. And only when you're leaving school and eventually when you go out on pension leave and you finish your career, that's the moment that creativity is picking up again. And we think that's really a big problem, because we need that creativity in order to deliver value for other people.
So do you target medium-sized businesses, big organizations? Because in my opinion, once you're stuck in the corporate world and you're tube-fed at a salary, it's really hard to motivate someone to become more entrepreneurial and start things by their own. So what type of organization do you work with? And did you agree with what I just said?
Yeah, partly. I still think that there are still people that have quite a career made already, that still have this young mindset, because it's especially about young-minded people. One of the participants in one of our events was 64 years old, but she was very young-minded. But yeah, usually what we see is that especially those people who are at the beginning of their careers and just left university or other forms of education and are within their first 5 years of their professional career, those are more adaptable to adapting this mindset. Yeah. And also what we see that especially from older generations, they very much look at these young generations to make the difference within their organization. So those people really have quite a burden that on one hand side, they don't have the experience yet, but on the other hand, they are the ones who are expected to bring this change towards their organization.
What do you think about the Google culture, which is that, hey, spend a part of your time working on your own projects? If your projects were good, we even have a Google venture arms that will fund it and bring it to market and so forth. What do you think about that mindset and culture?
Yeah, I think it's excellent. I very much believe that if we bring people together from different kinds of disciplines within an organization and giving them the freedom to go out and explore and to see how they can solve complex problems and add value for whoever, that is the basic where most of the new solutions of organizations come from. Usually it's not working 9 to 5 behind your desk, but especially going out, meet other people, get inspired, go out and explore, and really exploring for new ways to solve things. Yeah, yeah.
How would you compare entrepreneurship and innovation culture in the Netherlands vs other nations such as US or even Israel?
Yeah, what we see right now is if you look at the charts that the Netherlands have quite an innovative culture, but then still most of that innovation is focusing on technological innovation. And as we know, technological innovation will only succeed if you also have social innovation. And Dutch people are known for their bluntness because they speak out loud. And mainly, I think that that is a great advantage. So you also have the people within the team that have their own opinion and are not scared to talk about those things and share it with others, because I think that that really helps to innovate and to find out new ways instead of complying to the old system over and over again.
You have a bunch of services and ways for the brain to learn. So you have sprints, you have workshops, you have coaching webinars, you have events. What are the differences between both? Is there a method that's better to get the information in one's brain?
Yeah, we very much believe that you will learn most from experiences. So gaining that experience and getting into an atmosphere, as we call them, learning experiences. It's when we bring people together. For instance, we organized a few weeks ago a 3-day learning experience for trainees in the infrastructure sector. And the people who joined at the end of the event, he said, well, I didn't know that I was learning so much, but now at the end, when I'm looking back, I just have to, I take the conclusion that it really is a lot that I learned over these 3 days, and even their senior management joined the final pitches at the end of the event. And they said, well, hey, I see people doing stuff that they don't do at the office. So you really challenge those people to step out of their comfort zone and making new connections and learning a lot. So we very much believe that learning starts with a lot of experiencing new stuff.
What have you seen since the pandemic in regards with STUDIO.WHY, with the entrepreneurial mindset that you guys promote? Have you seen an increase in that type of mindset in organization, a decrease?
Yeah, at the beginning, a strong decrease, because quite some people didn't know how to cope with, for instance, the lockdown. One of our clients said that they believed that at about 10% of their staff were sitting at home and waiting for a phone call to be able to get back to work, back to the office, so they could join the workforce again. And but what we saw is that later on, people tried to invent a way to collaborate. And what we saw is that especially when people started to work from home, from their comfort zone in an environment that they trust, that those people were more likely to share more of themselves if they worked together with colleagues, because they felt more at ease. And that way it was much easier to really share your personal opinion about stuff. Also at the same time, I think that we never had an insight in the personal lives of all of our colleagues in such a short period of time.
Interesting. I value innovation and entrepreneurship quite a lot in my own business. For that reason, last week, for example, I posted on my LinkedIn 2 systems that I installed in my business, and I want your feedback on them. So the first one was that I now pay my employees 5 hours per week for reading about anything and learning about new stuff. And the second one is called QA project, kind of, so quality analysis. it pays my folks 2 hours per week minimum for them to review processes in their own department and point out to various inefficiencies and find potential solutions to those inefficiencies. So what do you think about these two solutions to create innovation in my own business?
I think that especially the first one is a good one to go out and explore. Yesterday, we had a meeting with local entrepreneurs who met at our studio, and they joined a serious game. And one of those participants said that he spends at about 5% of his time just to learn new stuff that has nothing to do with his core business. And it brings him a lot of inspiration and brings us to new ideas. So I think that the first one is a good one. The second one might be also about skipping the room for creativity, because people are tending to optimize the processes all the time, and it very much depends on what do you do with the amount of time that is spared in this one. Do you use it for those people to go out and explore and find new means, or do you use it to add up in productivity?
Yeah, correct. Well, for the first point, for example, the books, most of my team, they're not, let's say 9 or even 9.5 on 10 experts in their own field. So I'd like them to focus, on their specific field. And when they're 9.5 on 10, then yes, you can look at other fields of life and try to draw parallels between. So that'd be good. And for the second one, there's kind of a danger because everyone does quality assessment every now and then, just because most of my employees pays, well, not most, but a part of it is driven by KPIs. And if they don't reach those KPIs, then they're paid, they're not paid bonuses, for example. So they will kind of force themselves into checking what doesn't work and improve on that naturally. So yes, it can be kind of tricky indeed. What are other solutions that you would have to increase innovation and entrepreneurship in my small business?
Yeah, the way that we do it, we, as a matter of fact, we're a small business ourselves as well. In the Netherlands, we work together with a team of 7, and in most of the other countries, we have 2 or 3 people working in those countries, and they are all co-owner of the organization. So there's no difference between me. I'm one of the founders and one of the oldest guys within the team. Most of my colleagues are between 25 and 30 years old, and they earn exactly the same as I have. They have exactly the same rights and obligations as I have. And because of this, I think that especially at the beginning of the lockdowns due to COVID-19, we saw that nobody was looking at each other to say, well, hey, you're the owner, so you have to figure out how we can solve this one. But everybody was involved, and everybody did their utmost to accelerate and to see how we could overcome this new situation. So I think that shared ownership of the business is also a very good way to boost innovation, because everybody feels very much attached to the team and to the organization, and is always looking for new ways to develop new innovations or whatsoever.
Very interesting. Shouldn't I wait for people to signal that they'd like to have shares of my business before offering them? Because I feel that offering them shares while they don't really want to be owners is pretty much pointless. A bunch of entrepreneurs, what they do profit sharing. Would you recommend that I start with that? And after that, if they signal the interest to be owners of the company and have the maturity to know what an owner is, maybe offer them. Do you recommend I go with that?
I think that especially if you're trying to boost entrepreneurship, then it's good that those people that work with you are entrepreneurs themselves as well. Because how can you share something if you don't feel it yourself? And not only from the good side, but also the bad things. When a business drops down because of an incident like COVID, people feel their burden altogether. And it has also a great advantage, I think, if you're looking only for a share in the profit, then it's all financial based. But I think that there's an layer underneath about really making that connection and really feeling involved in an organization and really caring about each other and the well-being of the organization and its clients.
That's true. I'm almost seeing, the future of business as entrepreneurs just getting together and not really having like employees, because employee is kind of a mindset, and basically the future, let's say of an agency, I'd reunite with the best copywriter, the best researcher, the best tech guy for my agency, and we'd all share the profits of clients, and actually would be almost be 100% profits because agency use a lot of humans. So does consulting firms. So is that how a bunch of people run their business? They just go see other experts, other entrepreneurs, and they just share the revenues between themselves?
Yeah, it's something that I strongly believe that will grow and it will get bigger and bigger. Because eventually those all organizations need to be able to cope with unforeseen circumstances. And as developments go exponentially fast, I think that if people are really involved, it's much easier to cope with those kind of situations. So it's especially the situation where you had a business owner and a lot of employees. It is a kind of a business model from the past. And I think that new business models will arise like the ones that we use nowadays. And I don't say that this is the best business model, because also we have some downsides of it as well. But I think it's a great experiment, and we'll see how it works. For instance, in the Netherlands, and it's in a different way that it works in Mexico and in South Africa. So it's also a little bit culture based.
Super interesting. Maybe Kees, you can finish off here because I know we're over time already, by telling the audience about a couple of brainstorming techniques that I've read on your website.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I think that the most important thing that the big mistakes that a lot of people make is that brainstorming is a process that you do as a team, but brainstorming you always do as an individual. So first get out those ideas out of your heads, do a brain dump, do it in silence, and set a timer, for instance, put on some music and write down all those ideas, as many as possible. And then in the second round, try to use a technique that gets you the more outside the box ideas. And later on, you move on to techniques that gets the more crazy ideas, because in brainstorming, you're always looking for those crazy ideas, the things that you think, hey, I like it, but it's not possible, because those ideas probably will bring you to those brilliant, innovative ideas. And a technique that we use for this one is like we rephrase the challenge in how can we make it impossible for this thing ever to happen. And if people start thinking about these things, you see that a lot of people are using quite some black humor in there, but then they start to flip it from the negative towards the positive way. And yesterday with the entrepreneurs that we had at our studio, they never knew they were so creative just by dropping in some techniques, and we will share some more via the website if you would like.
Yeah, for sure. I recommend people going on your blog, which is STUDIO.WHY.com /blog-articles-news. Kaz, this has been amazing. Or should I say Kees? Kaz, it's been very insightful. You've shared a lot of good value bombs, and I wouldn't say that Dutch people are abrupt, but I like how you answer your questions, because you give like short answers and concise answers, and that's very much appreciated in the podcast. A lot of value for folks. So where can people find out more about you and Studio Y?
Yeah, especially if they go to STUDIO.WHY.com. As we boost innovation, we are experimenting a lot on our website ourselves. So if you go to that website, there are all different kinds of means where you can follow a free email course, and we will start with video courses soon as well. And if you're in the area, and it doesn't have to be in the Netherlands, because we're also, what I said, in Mexico or in South Africa or in Dubai, you can join one of our crews locally and join an event and just get that experience.
100%. I think my microphone dropped. 100%. That would be very cool. I'll definitely let you know if I'm around. So, Kees, thank you so much. Have yourself a great day, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks a lot. Have a great day. Bye-bye.